perspective.
Sure.
You're gonna have different people at different times. Is that your first 3 months you'll have the same 5 people, but then as those people graduate, then other people will, it may become a little more difficult to keep up with who's in what phase. And my other question, just on business sense, you're a private, for-profit business.
Yes.
You wanna keep this place full. So over time, is the screening gonna become more lax because you're feeling demands to continue to make money off of these affluenza, perhaps, kids that you have? And I have a few other questions too. but
Yeah, of course.
Did
No,
my
yeah,
husband,
that's fine.
I'm sorry.
I actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I was gonna identify that as an answer to your question. Because we are not dependent on the state to just hand us clients and money, that we have a level of care that we need to provide for reputation purposes, to continue to have individuals refer to us, and families, the word of mouth piece that you all know, to continue to trust us. So us taking a young man just because his family can pay that we're not well equipped with will put us out of business. That would be the worst decision we could make.
But putting you out of business puts us at great risk.
Exactly.
That's-
And that is
that's
why
strong
we
correlation.
cannot
Yeah.
take guys that will be detrimental to the integrity and reputation of our program. I have an interest in taking guys only that we can be successful with, because if we're successful with guys, we will have a successful
So,
business.
It's Jeff, right?
Yeah.
What is your demand? Do you have 500 kids, 100 kids? Who's in your pipeline right now? I mean, obviously to go forward with this, what kind of pipeline do you have?
So, in
We have a
terms of,
capacity of 5, you know that.
No, I'm saying
but
you
that's
have
not what she's
100
asking.
Yeah, I know.
people that are out there.
3 months later, they
Like,
leave.
I don't know much
So
about.
where do you get the next 5?
Yeah.
That's
oh,
what
so
you're saying.
let's start there. We're not gonna have 5 people on day 1, right? We'll have 1, maybe 2. We don't have to have 5 people here to pay the expenses. Okay, so there is not the demand as you have, like you have in high turnover programs that are to always have the beds filled. We don't have that demand. And one of my things I appreciated initially was that was not the requirement, that I have all 5 beds filled 100% of the time, because that's not good programming, right? So we have a number of people in various stages of the pipeline at this point, and we'll always likely have that same thing. People that are just calling to learn about the program, figuring out, is it for them? Many people disappear at that first phone call when they hear the price, right? Get job all done. Other people start to explore, and then they move into an application phase that can take any length of time. The parents do an application, the young man does an application, then there's various meetings that happen to follow up on the application. My meeting them in their home, my meeting the young men, them coming here, and all of those are points of potential departure, where it's looking like it's not gonna work out, not a good match, all those kind of things. And it's all kind of, it's not as if somebody just shows up at the front door, we do a quick assessment and you're in. We're actually spending quite a bit of time with him and his family to kind of weed out, okay, because I've been doing this a long time, people don't always tell you everything right on the first meter, that you want to spend the time to really dig a little deeper, and ooh, what's that little thing, or what's that gap, or I need to talk to the psychologist, I need to talk to the psychiatrist, right? I want to find out information from different people. So there's all those kind of intensities that go into the pipeline piece to
And
really
this is your
screen.
treatment center.
How many people do you
How
have?
kids do you have at your treatment center that would come?
We,
Like, is it 100 people at your treatment center? I have no idea
Oh,
what the
it-
numbers are.
let's see, in the adult psych program, the capacity is 30,
Okay.
30 I think now. Really, and this is, I think, I was thinking about what you asked. We really see Waypointe not as a make or break service line for our organization, but really more of a diversification. This is the piece, High Focus Centers, we provide a whole myriad of services. We have, and this is, you may have read about this, we do have primary substance abuse treatment programs in Branchburg. These are intensive outpatient level, structured day programs that are primarily treating adults with a primary substance use disorder. That's not the program that this one is attached to. We also provide adolescent programs for psychiatric, similar to the adult. And we also provide adolescent chemical dependence programs in some of our other sites as well. So really what we looked at Waypoint as is another extension of a service line, something that can diversify what we do and hopefully enhance it. If Waypoint consistently has 3 guys in it rather than 5, it's not going to make or break us. Really, and I hope you heard in our presentation today, kind of taking something we do really well and taking it to a next level where it can be excellent. And this really came out of that piece of like, well, what about that population of guys that do well when they're with us, and then they come back to us 6 months later because how can we get those guys? And that's really where Waypoint came from. So it's not a make or break. Like we don't have to, as soon as we get to 5, we want to go to 50 here. I mean, obviously we can't do that, but that's not going to make or break our organization. Does that answer your
And
question?
then in terms of monitoring, well, I have questions about the mental health portion. I sort of understand the drug, whatever rehab portion. Are
Well,
they?
this is primary psych. This is not gonna be a drug
So
rehab.
give me examples of psych.
These are
Depression.
acute psychiatric,
Yeah.
so they're primarily biologically based disorders, major depression, panic disorder. There would be bipolar disorder is one diagnosis. There's a lot of misinformation about bipolar disorder out there. It would be very unlikely that someone with full schizophrenia is going to not meet the exclusionary criteria we talked about in terms of just functioning. For many folks who have schizophrenia, there's a bit of a longer term treatment plan for that.
And then Andrea?
Laura.
Laura, sorry. So are you watching them take their meds?
We have a nurse, actually. We have a nurse who we share with High Focus, so she is actually gonna have continuity of care when they're at treatment, and she's also gonna come here. All of our guys are gonna be able to self-medicate. I mean, they're coming from home, and that's part of the goal of independence too, that they know their medications. We're gonna give them a lot of education on that. They're gonna know the side effects. We're gonna know them. We're gonna monitor it. All our staff are bachelor's level. They're not babysitters. They're not gonna be here just to supervise that, but they're gonna monitor, are they taking it? That's gonna be communicated with the nurse too. We also share a psychiatrist with High Focus. So he also will be following our guys. So it's a very conjoined program in that way.
To answer your question, med compliance is a huge one for folks who, medications are very effective. They do well for a while and they decide to stop taking them. That's one of the primary things with Waypoint is to help them stay with their regimen to do that. That's a very key part of it. Yes?
How and why this particular location?
Honestly, we wanted it to be in the proximity of our Branchburg facility. It's a beautiful facility. We opened it 3 years ago. So we had the capacity there to add the additional patients. Somerset County is beautiful, and this is a beautiful area. It's a wonderful community. And so what we were looking
But it's
for.
isolated.
Yeah, there's nothing around. They can't walk to a coffee shop or Dunkin' Donuts, and it's
One of the things we also.
2.5 miles down on the main highway.
Yeah, well, this is really, during the 3 months that they're here, we're really not as, the physical proximity of walking around part of independence. What we really hope to do is have these guys be overscheduled. I mean, we have vans, and our mentors are going to be certified to drive wherever to the treatment program in Branchburg.
Where is
Also-
this place in Branchburg?
Right on 22, it's in the Branchburg Commons. Do you know what that is? It's across from the 25 Burgers or 52 Burgers. Yeah.
That's very much what an outpatient program looks like, just like a doctor's office.
Yes.
Not living.
Correct.
One of the things we were looking for was a location that was a little bit remote, so that
How
we,
did you find this place? Did the people that own this seek you out, or did you find this on your
Well,
own?
one of the things for community residents, it needs to be a single-family home. And so we were looking for those who were willing to lease. But we also had a lot of criteria in terms of, the bedrooms here all have individual bathrooms. There's a large living space, the kitchen, the space itself is great. We love the fact that there's a large yard. What we're hoping to do is to do a lot of nice landscaping, to do almost like a little nature trail, walk around a garden that these guys.
Repair the fence?
I'm sorry.
Can you repair the fence?
He's the one that fell down. He's like,
Yeah, I could drive my car through once in a
Yes.
while. And then-
yes, we will. We
So you found this on your own?
We did, yeah. So,
And how did you do that?
It was listed.
It was listed.
But it was
with a
listed for
realtor.
sale.
Yes,
It
it was
was.
for sale. It was listed with a realtor.
And can I ask you how long your lease is?
our lease is 5 years.
And can you get out of that lease at any time, or is there a certain,
No.
so what happens if you don't get your license? You're here for 5 years?
No, we're confident we'll get our license. We've done a lot of, and this goes a little bit to, and it's a very hard process. We wanted to do an open house like this for a long time. But
How long have you,
That's large.
had this place? How long are you on the lease?
we finally occupied, I guess this was in December, January. We first approached the town a year and a half ago.
The town.
Really?
Just to how to go about the process of getting a zoning permit, as well as a continue.
And was that with just the gentleman that is in that particular office, the zoning office, or the township committee, or the building department, you know?
The zoning department and the construction official. So we had a lot of discussions with them about exactly what we were going to do and where it fit into the zone, et cetera, and so forth.
That was a year and a half
That's a little contradictory
Yeah.
of what we were told at the township meeting, that they had no idea.
On our zoning permit, it says for a psychiatric residence. So there was very full disclosure on exactly what we were going to do.
And on your application, your Waypoint or High Focus?
I think it's Waypoint High Focus. I mean, really,
High Focus is an it's like an
I thought
LLC.
this was like a separate entity.
this is kind of like a program within High Focus. Like our Branchburg site is one of those sites of High Focus. Waypoint, in essence, is like another site of High Focus centers.
And now, people that are in the outpatient in Branchburg have the opportunity to come here as a resident.
If there is a young adult male who meets all the criteria, et cetera, heard about Waypoint, wants to do it, his family's involved and wants to do that, we may. It's very unlikely we'll get our referrals that way. You know, Jeff, is really, a lot of it is more, it's a small population of people who would fit this criteria, so a big part of what we're doing is just trying to educate, not just here, but
What is the price?
It's 21,000 a month.
21,000 to be a resident here?
Yes.
One resident, 21,000 a month.
I want this.
Not to cut him off, but did you take, when you decided to sign the lease here, did you take into consideration the fact that you have several bus stops with children
Elementary age children.
from 5 years old to 16 years old that get on the bus at 6:35 in the morning? And there's children here that are scared.
Well, we did because we're not taking anybody that has any sexual predatory history
How
of
are
any
we
kind.
talking about sexual?
People can be violent, people can be.
We're not
uncontrolled.
taking people that are violent. We have no criminal history, no violence, no sexual history.
You're talking about 18 to 26-year-old men that you have a resident here that has a swimming pool, that there'll be girls there swimming. I mean, come on.
Well, I
What were
honestly,
you thinking when you were 18?
well, I will tell you this, and let me just say this. I mean, it's the
Now,
kind of
there's a
thing
good
that,
promise.
there are lots of 18 to 26-year-old males that live in this town,
Granted.
and there wouldn't be any sort of
Not
reason they
in
could.
the group home situation.
Yeah, I think the
you know.
difference would be the high rotation of 18 to 25 year olds.
How does this reflect as a group home? It sounds more like a commercial business. 21,000 times 5 is you're talking $120,000.
Well, yeah. Well, how we really.
Sounds like it's more for money than for helping people that have problems.
Yeah, I mean, how we really see our program is like an alternative to their. There are lots of wilderness programs. I don't know if you've heard like wilderness programs where folks will go. I mean, many of them in Utah and things like that, where they make an immersion program out in the wilderness and a similar price for a program like that. Really, how we see ours is more of a similar program, but yet not remote. Instead, being able to be in a community, and this answers a little bit, you asked why, our proximity to Raritan Valley Community College. There are, some other kinds of retail and things near the mall that, some of these guys could get part-time jobs and things like that. That's really part of the proximity. And so our goal is to have a kind of program that they can go, get away from wherever their communities are, where they are, develop a new pattern of behavior and living. So that's really where we see our price point coming in, is really as an alternative to that. Instead of,
So your situation is more of a school where you teach people.
it almost is kind of like that. It's like
So you should have a school situation instead of a group home situation. A group home is for people that need help constantly, that don't change.
Yeah, well, we find that they do change in that, but in order to do the.
Every 6 months, you're gonna have different people.
It's more
But
transient
that's what we're
than
working on, we're working on
stability.
transitions and them transitioning. And that's why it's designed for that. We want them to be able to build up independence and learn how to make that transition. So it's time limited, yes, but it's longer than other programs. It's not like the turnaround.
And the type of person who doesn't really have any potential of getting to that next step probably isn't the right person for us. We're looking for people that do have that potential and can launch into that next phase of their
Then
life.
it's not a group home.
And there's that.
Well,
many
it's how the state categorizes a residential program. They have that word of community residence, right? So that's really what it is. And you are absolutely right, there's a variety of different types of group homes for different types of people. There's group homes for people with traumatic brain injury.
Basically, that's
There's
what
group homes.
the state set that up for, that type of living conditions where it's a constant
Yeah,
living condition, not where it's transitional.
No, that's actually how the state defines it, is community
Like you said,
residence
this
can
is
be.
the first transitional one that's going into effect.
Well,
Not ever.
not ever, for sure.
In-
There are lots.
In New Jersey.
No,
In New
just for
Jersey.
this group,
Just for this
Just for this
Right.
group. There's other types of transitional residences, halfway houses, all those kind of residential programs.
The state has
Throughout
also
the
taken an approach to not want to keep people institutionalized and to get them exactly functioning back into society. So a lot of what had maybe historically have been the new approach, their approach is to want the least restrictive environment as possible. So not keeping somebody in an institution for 20 years or
Sure.
whatever like that, wherever possible.
You have a question?
I'd like to go back, at the beginning of the video, you described the optimal person that would be here, failure to launch, et cetera. And the last thing you said, and they may have co-occurring disorders. Can you tell me what
Yeah,
that would be?
very good. So co-occurring means mental health plus some other diagnosis. In the industry,
Like what?
it typically means like substance use disorders or some other kind of disorder. So co-occurring, two things that are impacting the person's functioning, right? Mental illness and something else.
But the something else can't be violent,
Correct.
sexual,
Correct.
et cetera, et cetra.
They may have a history of
Correct.
substance use or abuse, but it cannot be active. And we're a drug-free environment in which we'll do drug screens, et cetera. So we have things in place where we think, to mitigate any kind of active substance use. And then obviously, the criteria meaning there's a primary diagnosis for any patient, and it would always include mental health. If it's just a primary substance use disorder, then they're not appropriate for us.
And did you say that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to change the subject, so if you're on the same subject.
No,
go
I
ahead.
just wanted to go back.
I have a
agree
question
with
on that one though. When you say substance abuse, if they've been arrested for possession of narcotics, would that then eliminate them from being here?
Likely,
Probably
that's a
so,
criminal history.
probably so, yeah.
But not for sure.
Well, think about the variety of circumstances. So the kid is 12 years old, was caught at school because a kid gig on marijuana, like at 12, and and now he's 25. Would that one thing preclude him? Maybe not. If he was arrested last year, absolutely.
But
Right,
you're-
so it's that nuance of really looking at what is going on with this young man, what is the risk, what are the circumstances, and can we treat that? Can I treat a guy that got suspended or arrested when he was 12 at school and there hasn't been any other things in the past 10 years?
Sure.
Of course. But a guy who's been repeatedly arrested, picked up on possession and, all that, controlled substance, no, that's not what this
And
program
do I
is about.
understand correctly that you're the person that's gonna make that decision?
Not in isolation, I'm the person screening initially and working through all those filters we talked about, and then because we're all in it, right? Then before that, then that goes, I give all that profile package to Tom for final.
I'll review it. If there's
Yeah.
anything on there that seems to even come close to an exclusionary criteria, we discuss it and then.
It's always
And
more
how
than
long- how long
more than
does that
one person's
process
eyes.
How long?
How long? 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3
Well,
months?
yeah, it actually takes several weeks. I mean, from an initial contact to Jeff, it's like, I heard of your program, tell me more about it, and it kind of progresses to, all right, I'd like to sit down, schedule some time to, go through a history. All right, I'd like to come out and look at the place. I mean, it's actually,
It could take
historically,
weeks,
it
it
takes
could take
weeks.
weeks, and really depending on availability of all the people that need to be spoken to and their responsiveness and all that.
But
kind
there
of
usually is
stuff.
some underlying urgency.
There is. I mean,
Well, yes,
Jeff's just
we're
kind of
not
an
a
emergent
crisis
guy.
program.
No, I understand,
We're not a
if
crisis
the kid's
program,
having
right.
issues
Right.
at Rutgers or wherever, there's urgency to get him out before his grades become final or.
A best case scenario, whereas I want to fly out, I want to meet with you, Jeff. Great, I just talked to all the primary care physician and the pediatrician, and he has all the records, and I'm going to bring them with you, and then I'm going to sit down and we're going to do a drug screen. And I mean, I guess that could happen, and that would probably be the optimal, quickest it would happen. But until we have all of that information, we can't make a decision about it.
And again, with the drug screening, so the nurses do that, and it's a urinalysis?
No, actually, all our staff are gonna be trained to administer breathalyzer and urine drug screen,
But really, the males.
Well, as often
as needed.
They're
yeah.
supervised.
And it's part of a requirement to live here, you have to comply and commit to.
Because there's lots of ways to get around with it.
Yeah.
They're
We've been-
supervised.
Yes, we've had
We do that in
substance
our
programs
training
for like 25 years, so we have a whole process to try and.
And generally, I mean, these young men, when you have substance abuse, co-occurring problems, whatever, they're liars. They've lied to their parents for a long time, they've lied. And that's,
So
so.
we'll also be getting random screens in treatment during the day. We just say our staff has the ability, if they come in or they smell, that we can do an on-site breathalyzer urine drug screen, and they voluntarily have to consent to it, to even come in this program, that we could do that at any
Even though you're
time.
saying, they're coming for money, that doesn't mean a thing.
No,
When you have
no,
drug
no, you're
use,
right, absolutely.
you can be
No,
the
that's-
registration of course versus.
And this is the piece where,
You have to
we
Wednesday.
have been
Yeah.
doing this a long time.
Exactly.
I mean, one of our colleagues has this great list of like the 100 best excuses for,
Positive urine
how my
screen.
screen came up positive.
Right.
I mean,
Poppy seed bagels.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure.
Exactly.
yeah, I won't even go into it. But I mean, this is the stuff that we have encountered for years, and we're very familiar with this population. So yes, you want to take everything at face value, but verify it all with data.
Speaking of verifying, who checks the criminal histories? Is that the patient provide you their criminal history, or where do you get that information from?
Patients and family members.
So if they're not completely honest, you don't know what
Do you
their true
want-
history
yeah.
is. Well, I can't run their criminal
Not you,
history.
then.
Yeah, we could either.
We could not.
Yeah,
do that.
that's why I was asking the criminal history,
Yeah,
where do you
no,
get
we
it from?
can't do that.
And it would be, and it's maybe the patient and family not involved, but Jeff is speaking with not just those two people, it's all the other pieces of the puzzle of that individual's life that would bring us to the
Yeah.
table. Now, we do that in our
Well, you
treatment.
can require these people to provide you with a criminal history.
That's right, yeah.
We can, yes.
Is it required?
Yes, I mean, we require that if they blatantly lie to us. I mean, this is one of the things that's a little bit of the nature of what we do. You can ask a direct question, and then you can also verify it through having several sources give you the same info and compare.
No, what I'm saying is you can require them to provide you with a criminal history before you allow them to come to your program.
What he said is actual certified criminal history.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
they requested and get it
Could you
themselves.
make that part of the criteria to become a patient here?
I'll tell you what, we will consider that. Kim is here because she tells me the things that we can't do, meet by state regulation and by, ethics boards and things like that. But I will absolutely look into that, because I mean, you're right, that's very
Are the
critical.
candidates gonna be just from New Jersey, or are you taking from all over?
They can come from anywhere.
It can come from
International.
You can require, because it's not a state program, it's a pay program.
It's a state, it would be a state license.
But under our
We
license,
still have to-
yeah, there
we
are
have to
some things we have to do.
comply with our state regulations in order to function.
And that's really important to us, because once we become funded by the state, they control who comes here, not us. So the
Well, that's what I'm saying.
that waiver
We're saying
was
that's
very
not-
important to us, so that
They
we,
can't tell you that you can't require that.
no, they can
They can do that
dictate
in order to
what
give us
the
the license.
protocols are here. Right, we exceed those, you know, Kim can speak on this all day, right? They say there has to be one bathroom for 8 people who live in a residence. That's one of the standards, right? Everybody has their own bathroom, we have extra bathrooms, right? So we're always looking to exceed the state requirements. But the state, once it becomes funded, they need people in programs, right? So that's where the challenge in running the type of program we want to run into gets very dicey, and where your concerns become even more heightened, because then we don't know who we're getting, and we have to deal with whoever shows up, right? So we need to have that ability to say no.
So to answer your question, we'll look into that. I mean, I don't have any problem off the top with that. It really is running it through regs and things, and